A very common misconception about making your point heard in a group discussion is that you simply interrupt the other person and make them stop till they don't, and then just continue from wherever you were. Now that's considered very rude, and I'm here to tell you that there are definitely better ways of doing that. You do not need to cut somebody off just because you're not getting a chance to speak. You can actually navigate the discussion in a way that not only will people let you speak, they will also listen to you if you choose your timing well. So a lot of you may have been part of school debates and school symposiums, and you will remember that after the debate was over and the speakers had spoken, you were given, the audience were given some time to do some cross-questioning. And again, the moderator or whoever was chairing the event would always come back to the person who would ask the question and say no cross-questioning. And that tends to happen a lot because if somebody does ask a question and gets a response, they're bound to have a responding question or a follow-up question. But because usually we are looking at a paucity of time, we don't address those. So keep the same kind of sensibility for your group discussion as well. Okay, do not leave a lot of time for follow-up questions. And similarly, do not take or assume a lot of time for your own cross-questioning for the other person. So here's the key difference between interrupting someone and being rude and actually making an interjection or making yourself heard. Okay? Now, let's say that there is somebody who is making a point, and sometimes it happens that a person tends to go on for a while. Now, there can be two reasons for that. You see, one, sometimes people are making a really valid point and other people just tend to listen to them. And they're like, okay, they make perfect sense, I'm just going to let them continue. And at that time, when the person is done, usually a couple of people have really good questions or follow-up comments. But the other reason why somebody is allowed to speak for a couple of minutes as a stretch is that other people are just done. They don't have anything to say. And you may be one of them. At that time, of course, everybody is racking their brains trying to figure out the next smart thing to say. And in that frenzy, in that tension, the only way that the other person is made to stop from talking is by interfering them rudely. And here are a couple of common ways of doing that. Say somebody's speaking and you suddenly come a point and you suddenly go with, yes, excuse me, but. Never say excuse me in a group discussion. It's just not a good thing. Okay, excuse me is meant for a point where nobody was talking. Okay, it's more of a gesture. And you shouldn't cut somebody off by simply saying excuse me. Okay, it's rude and it's also a little bit sarcastic. As you can refer to the previous videos, we did a little bit about sarcasm already. So never cut anybody off by saying excuse me. The other way of doing that is, once again, the other person is talking and you say yes but, or well I agree but, and you don't say it in a way that you agree, like oh I agree, go on, but instead you say yes I agree with you but, and then you go on talking whatever you were going to say. Now when you do that, the other person will just look at you and think, yeah, but I was still making my point. Was that in connection with what I was saying? What did you just do? And of course, everybody is going to take a note of the fact that you did it really rudely. So saying excuse me or saying yes, I agree, but, or let me ask you this, or let me say this, or yes, but also, all of these rejoinders are good when you say them in a polite way and when the other person looks like they're going to wind down their point. But if they're in the middle of making their point and they're obviously in the meaty part of it and you interrupt them, that's simply rude. Now, what are the good ways in which you can properly interject? So one classic way is to say that was a great point and I would like to add that. Okay, this is a great point because it will never go out of style. Nobody can ever take offense when you say that was a great point and I'd like to add that. Okay, and even if you do not agree with the other person, you can say that was really well put, however. Okay, these are classic words for interjection and nobody will ever be offended that, oh, you don't agree or you do agree, whatever. They will just simply say, oh, I'm going to listen to this. Somebody made a point, that was valid. Somebody else is making a point, that's also valid. Let's just listen. Okay, and you're doing it in such a smooth and polite manner that instead of listening to the words that you're saying, people will actually listen to the content that you're putting out. And isn't that the whole point of having a group discussion anyway? So when you're looking to interject, instead of raising your hand, instead of doing this, instead of doing this, or instead of saying excuse me, or instead of saying something like I think we should have other people talk, which is also a very common thing, a very common wrong trope. Okay, instead what you should say is, what you should do is wait for the other person to kind of wind down their point and then find a better polite way, like a however or an I agree and then carry on with your point. So that is a little bit about how to not interfere but interject in a group discussion.